Good afternoon. My name's Phil. I'm part of the form building team here at Formatize, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to have a look at our new pool safety barrier inspection reports. So as you know, some of you may know, we have had a pool inspection product out for 8 to 10 years now, but it was well overdue for a facelift, and so that's what we've done. We've spent quite a few months preparing these reports to get them to where they are today. When we build a solution like this, we spend a lot of time in three main criteria. So when we're building a form, first of all, it has to be compliant with the associated regulations or Australian standards. So in this case, there's quite a few Australian standards involved. For Victoria, Queensland, there's one standard, plus the additional documents, like for Queensland, there's the QDC NP 3.4, and for Victoria, there's the building regulations. So we've spent a lot of time going through those, getting these forms as compliant as possible. The second criteria we use is making it easy for you as inspectors to fill out, something that's taking you through a process that's quick and easy, that's compliant as well. So it's asking you the questions that you need to ask, making you or helping you to look at the things that you need to look at while doing an inspection. Obviously, we can't do the inspection for you, but hopefully these forms run you through a process that makes it harder and harder for you to forget or miss things. So that's the second criteria. And the third criteria is basically making the PDF report that the client receives after you finish the inspection as clear as possible for them to read, so they can easily see what the problems with the pool is. They can easily see what you've recommended on how they fix things. It's nice and clear document for the client, for the receiving client. Okay, so today I'm going to take you through the forms, and I'm also going to show you how the database lookups work. So we've got what we call smart words linked to these forms. So they're sort of basically preset comments that you can bring into the form for things that might regularly happen on a job. So there might be a thing like a regular, the gate doesn't close properly. So you can have a comment for that comes into the form, which you can then adjust. So that'll make a lot more sense when I run through that with you. But what I'll do is I'll turn this camera off and we'll jump into a form and we'll have a look how they work. Okay, so let's go up to forms and we're going to go start a new form here. I'm going to demonstrate these forms in the portal rather than the app, just for ease of videoing and showing you how it works. The forms work exactly the same way in the app. Now what you can see here is it's giving you a drop down of all the forms in your account. Now we've added, when you sign up for the trial with the pool and barrier inspection forms, you get all the forms that we've got available. Okay, so there's some inspectors that may be working near the Queensland, New South Wales border, or the same New South Wales Victorian border. So you may be doing or needing two different inspection forms. So we've added everything in, and our team, when we do a walkthrough with you, can show you how to remove the forms that you don't need. Okay, today I'm going to quickly run through a 2012 inspection. So this is a Victorian inspection. So we'll hit start, and that will open up the form for us to start filling it out. Okay, this works the same way in the app. So here we have the name of owner of the land where the pool's built. So you can click on that and it will take you to what we call our CRM. So this is your list of clients. So you can import these or you can add them as you go. If the client that you want isn't in the form or in the drop down here, you can hit add new client and add the details there to then put them in. So we're going to select this one at the moment, and you can see that automatically populates the address, the phone number, and the email link for the client. Okay, here you have two buttons that are just triggers basically that let you send the PDF report to the client when you submit the form. One can also send the Form 23 report to the client if the form is, if the inspection's compliant. Okay, so Queensland works a little bit differently. They run it through the QDCC website, so it doesn't quite work the same way for Queensland, but that's basically something that maybe you can work up to. You might want to check over your inspection reports before you send them to the client. But when you're up and running and you're confident, you can just hit yes to either of these and the email will be sent straight to the client from site. So before you get in your car, the client's got a full colour copy of the PDF report that you've just inspected. Okay, on our reports we have a nice big front cover that this section here allows you to take a photo of the pool that comes out on the cover. It is important to take this one in landscape mode, so that just formats it correctly on the front page of the report for you. Okay, running down here we've got, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, you've got the address of the pool. These things here are for the Form 23, so that won't make a lot of sense to anyone from Queensland watching this, but yeah, the Queensland form obviously doesn't have these items in there. So this pre-populates the Form 23. Okay, we've got a section here, the applicable barrier standard, which is once again part of the Victorian solution, but we're in the 2012 form now, so if I choose any of these, it gives me a warning that I'm choosing the wrong option here, or I'm in the wrong form. So if I choose the 2012, then it tells me I'm in the correct standard for the inspection I've chosen. Okay, there's some notes here to the inspector, one about complying photos. So if you mark an item as complying in the form, it does give you the opportunity to take a photo. You don't need to take a photo if you don't want to, but if you want to take complying photos as well as non-compliance photos, then these forms give you the option to do that. If you do not take a photo, nothing comes into the report. So yeah, there's no problem with not taking photos, but it's there if you want to. Okay, this section here is really quite cool. It basically determines what elements come into the form when you're filling it out. So anything that's not relevant, like if the pool isn't an above ground pool, you can just hit no to that and the above ground pool questions won't come into the form. Okay, same with boundary fences. If there isn't any boundary fences included in the inspection, then just hit no to that and that section doesn't come into the form. Gates, so we'll just answer yes to that. Is there any part of the barrier constructed with glass? We'll say no. Is there any doors that open directly? So doors are a fairly big part of an inspection now. There's, depending on when the pool was built, whether doors are allowed as part of a barrier or not. Anyway, this whole section here, there's retaining walls, balconies. So if you click yes to balconies, then the balcony section will appear in the report. If you choose no, you don't have to deal with it. Okay, so we've tried to make that as easily as possible. This section here, there's just a link here that takes you back to our 3D visual library of images. So they're 3D images that you can go in and have a look at if you ever want to, or the client can. This link will be live in the PDF when they receive it, so your clients can actually go in there and have a look as well. Okay, so here's the first section. At the top of each section, we have like an overview image. So this is just showing us things that that are relevant to this part of the inspection. Okay, so there's a few standard measurements here. Obviously, these change for different standards, but okay, so now we're down into the remainder of the report. If I choose complies, this is what I was talking about a minute ago. It gives you the opportunity to take a photo of that complying option. So that's completely up to you whether you take a photo or not. There's certainly not any need to. If you hit does not comply, you then get this table, so you can add details. And with the smart words I was talking about earlier, the database lookups, you can click on here and it gives you some options of what may be wrong with the pool. Okay, so this one here, the height of the barrier is less than 1200 in one or more areas. The barrier height must be a minimum of 1200. So I can then select that as my comment. The beauty of the smart words is this is now editable, so I can jump in there and add detail to it if I want to. Or I can change it by, if I want to change it, I can highlight that and get rid of it and choose another option. If I slide across here, I can add a photo of the non-compliant item, and there's also an additional comment section here. Now in the database, you can also make these comments pre-fill if that's something that you want to do. So when you choose this comment, it can also populate this comment. So that's something I'll show you to do how to do when we get to the database section. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the barrier permanent, the overall height. We've got these main headings here of things that you need to check as you're going through it. So gap below the panels, the distance between the bottom of the barrier and the finished ground level shall not exceed 100 mm at any point. So we've tried to make it as clear as possible about what you're inspecting. Now, the first 4 or 5 times that you fill out these forms, you may need to read this question, but after a while, you'll know exactly what gap below panels is, and you'll be able to just run through this form fairly quickly, spending more time looking at the components rather than reading and understanding what the form's saying. So that's the idea. First few times, you really may need to understand what this question's asking for vertical components, and then once you're familiar with it, I'm pretty sure these forms will be very quickly for you to fill out well. Okay, so you've got vertical components, permanent surface below, so that's just materials that can't be removed. The fact that the barrier is vertical, changing ground height. Now here we've got before we move into the non-climbing zones, a nice image to display the non-climbing zones for the client to view. Okay, so we refer to them as non-climbing zone 1 here, so they can see that non-climbing zone 1 is this front face here. Okay, so you've got non-climbing zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once again, we'll just hit does not comply here to show you how that works. Okay, so there's footholds on the outside of the face of non-climbing zone 1. The element protrude more than 10 millimeters could be used as a foothold. Now, if the comments that you want aren't here, then you can add as many comments to these as you like, and I'll show you how that works in the next section. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every question. There's quite a few here. We've got sloping barriers. So above the sloping barriers section, there's a nice image here that shows you all the things that you might want to look at as far as sloping barriers go. If you hit not applicable, then that image disappears. So it's not something that the client's actually looking at. Same with step barriers. If you have got a step barrier, you can either comply or doesn't comply. Or not applicable. Once again, that image will disappear. Now these questions here are triggers to help determine what you need to look at in the inspection. So is any element of the barrier constructed using a perforated material or mesh? If you hit no, you just continue on. But if you were to hit yes, it then gives you an image of perforated material, shows you a couple of things that you need to look out for, and you move on to the next part of the inspection. So do the apertures measure 13 millimeters or less? If you answer no, then it gives you more questions about what you need to be looking for. Okay, so if the apertures are greater than 13 mil, then the barrier shall be a minimum of 1800 high. So obviously this changes depending on what standard you're in or what inspection you're doing. If I hit yes, then it'll automatically make that comply and you're good to move on to the next thing. Okay, so keep scrolling down here. We've got the gates, so it works the same way. Here we've got an image of the gate with a few of the basic measurements that are needed. So here you can take a photo of the gate before you start. Give the gate a name, like it might be the front gate or the back gate, or if you've got multiple gates. Now this section is what we call a repeatable section. So down the bottom of the section you can hit add another gate. So this might be gate number 1, and you can go through all the items on this gate, which work exactly the same way. They've all got a database lookup on them, so you can add your comments. And then down the bottom, so it moves into latches. So once again, it prompts you to which way you need to go. If the latch mechanism is 1500 or more above the ground, then you're right. If you say no, then it takes you into questions about the position of the latch and latch shielding and so forth. Section on hinges there. If the hinges are applicable, or it's a different type of gate system, then you can hit not applicable and that section will disappear as well. So down here you can see the button for add another gate, and that just basically takes you through that whole section again for the second gate. Okay, there's a strength and rigidity section there. You can see because I chose balconies up the top, then the balcony section opens up. So once again, this section here, same thing, gives you the comply and not comply. You can add rows. Now, if you've got more than one issue with the gate, you can hit add row as many times as you like and add different issues. Okay, so also if you want to add more photos, we We do only suggest one photo per row to keep the report looking neat and tidy. If you do want to add a second photo, then you can add a new row. Just leave that blank and add a photo here. So you can do that as many times as you want. It just makes the report look a lot neater for the client when they're reading it. Okay, so same thing here. We've got yes/no questions that open up different sections of the form. So that one's just for stairs leading into the balcony, just to make sure that there's a compliant gate at the top of the barrier. Then we're down to the bottom of the form. So there's obviously not much in this form because I didn't select too many items at the top. It's a fairly simple inspection. Here we can say whether it was compliant or non-compliant. These questions here for Victorian inspectors fill out these sentences here, so that's something that you'll get used to as you're doing it. You can sign the inspection there, say whether you carried out work or not, and it puts all your company details in there. Down the bottom here, we've just got a thing. It's basically a duty of care section for the client, just for a few notes for them to make sure that they're looking out. I mean, pool barrier safety is everybody's responsibility, so it's really good to remind the client that just because they pass the inspection today doesn't mean there's not things they need to be watching every time the pool's used, after every time the pool's used, before every time the pool's used. So yeah, having a pool is a big responsibility, and it's up to everybody to make sure it's right, but mainly the pool owner. Okay, then we've got a section down here of terms and conditions that protects you as the pool inspector. Just things in there like you can only inspect items how they appeared on that day. If things change after you leave, then you have no control over that. So it's just a few terms and conditions there to help clear things up with the client. Okay, so that's basically how the forms work. I'll just scroll back up to the top here. Once you're happy with that, you can save it, and if you're finished, you can submit it, and that will, depending on how you've answered these questions, it will send a copy to the client. If you answer no, then it does send a copy back to sends the form data back to the submitted forms tab. So I'll quickly go in there and show you how that works. So we'll go to forms and submitted forms. I won't submit this report. We'll just have a look at one. Okay, so this is a Queensland one, so I'll pick this one here so we can show the Queenslanders a bit about how theirs might look. If I hit this arrow here, this opens up the submitted form, so I can see the data in the form that I entered in inspection. I can go through and make sure it's all right. You can see there I've got the photo of the pool. You can see the questions I've answered here. So this was a fairly basic inspection. There were gates but no retaining walls, no windows or doors. So it was a fairly easy inspection. If I've seen something that I'm not happy with, then I can change this is all completely editable here at the moment, so I can change items that I wasn't happy with. I can then view the PDF to show you what the finished report looks like. So I'll quickly, the Queensland report hasn't got the Form 23 on it because it has to be done a different way, but this shows you what the finished inspection report. So the front cover photo that I was talking about comes in there nice and clear. Your logo will come in here. We've got the name of the report, which stand it was in accordance to, and the address of the pool on the front page. Then a little bit of a blurb about pool safety, and then you move into the details that you filled out in the form. So here you can see, the client can see what was included and what wasn't in the inspection. And then down here, the client can easily see that, okay, this complied, this didn't comply. Okay, so it's using these colored buttons that we use. It's very clear to the client there's an issue here because it's bright red. You can easily see the comment that we've made, photos of the issue, and you can add whatever you like in this comment section. In this one here, I've added just a demo comment about what they can do to fix it. Okay, so that's how the report looks. You can see the diagram there for the non-climbing zones. Okay, this one had intersecting barriers that obviously we didn't cover in the inspection because there was no boundary fences or no internal intersecting barriers. Sorry. So you can see here everything that complies. Nice, clean, neat layout for the client to to look at. The Queensland forms are included have the CPR section to make sure the CPR sign is compliant, and then the inspector details section down the bottom, and we've got the terms and conditions. So that's basically how that works. So that's the PDF report. So you can, if you're not happy with something in here, you can just go back to form, make changes, save the form again, and then review the PDF to see those new changes made. Okay, so I'll quickly now show you how the databases work. So we'll move on to that next. Just before we do that, I'll quickly jump into the Forms tab here. So I'm going to go to Forms and then Submitted Forms. So this is a list of all the inspections you've done through the app or via the portal. So it's basically a permanent record of all your inspections. Okay, so you've got different tabs across the top here. If you're using different types of forms, like if you're potentially using agreement forms, they can all appear in this tab here. Inspection reports are in this one. You can set these up yourself however you like. The All Forms tab is basically a default tab that shows every form type, so it's there by default. What I quickly want to do is show the Victorian inspectors how the Form 23 works. So if I click into here, this will open up the submitted form, showing me the actual data that I've entered into the inspection. So here you can see the client details, the photo. So we've already been through that. It's just to show you how this works. If I hit View PDF here, I've got a couple of options. There's a drop down here, and I'll quickly go into the F1 minimal report. So it will now regenerate that report. So the F1 minimal report is the default inspection report. So it will come out on automatically. You don't need to go and enter data into anything. It all automatically happens as soon as you filled out that form. Okay, once you've saved and submitted, this PDF is automatically generated. The Form 23 report is exactly the same. It's just a custom report. There's no need to enter other details into anywhere. Once you've submitted that form, this report is automatically created. So you can see here all the data has been pulled from the form into this custom report. So there's questions in the form that say, do you want to send a copy of this to the client? If you answer yes, then this report will be sent to the client as well. Okay, I'll just quickly go back to the form. Before we move to database lookups, I want to show you the labels in the form that determine how the database lookups work. So every question in the form has got this type of label: barrier permanent, overall height, gap below panels. Okay, so the database lookups are using those kind of labels to determine what section you're in and what answers you want to have access to. Okay, so let's use overall height as an example. So we'll scroll back up to the top here, and we'll go to Forms and Lookup Databases. So here you can see a list of the databases that these forms are using. Okay, we're going to go into the barrier lookup, because that's where the section we were just looking at is. Retaining walls has got two, because there's retaining walls above the pool and retaining walls below the pool. But if you're wanting to add door comments, for instance, you would go into the doors database. Okay, so we're going to go into the barrier lookup now. Open that up, and this shows you all the comments that we've pre-added for you. Okay, if you want to see more than what's just on that front page, you can adjust the amount of options that you're seeing here. Okay, so these are comments that we've added. We by no means say you have to use them. They're there as examples. You can come in here and edit these. Just by clicking on the edit button, you can change that comment. We've left a spare one here for you to add your own new comment if you like. So you can just do that. Simple as hitting the edit button. That will open up the actual item. You can add your comment here if you like. The additional comment, if you do add a comment in here that you want to come into the report every time, then absolutely add it here and save it. So when you choose this item this comment will automatically populate in the form. Okay, once you're finished, you can save. I'll just go back to browse here. So when I was showing you the labels in the form, okay, these labels here are what's determining what the form is looking up in that section. Okay, so it's very important that if you're going to create a new one, it might be a good idea to highlight that and copy it. So Control C, and if you want to add a new entry, just scroll to the top and hit New Entry, and then paste that exact item in there. So that way you've got an exact copy of it. So that will then make sure that it's going to give you your new comment in that overall height section. Okay, so this overall height bit here is very important to get right. That item lookup is what's filtering the comments for every section. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you need more clarification on it, we're happy to go through it further with you. So that's about it for the database lookups. You can come in here and add as many comments as you like to any of the databases. You can add the additional comments if you like. You can see we haven't added additional comments. You can do that if you like as well. So I think that's all there is to talk about on that one. The next thing I want to show you is jobs. So you can create jobs in Formatize that have forms attached, so that in the app you can go to the jobs tab, look up the jobs that you've got for that day, and they can be have forms that are pre-filled, all sorts of things. So it's basically just you're choosing a client here. That will populate the client's name. You can choose the address of the job. If there is more than one address, say a real estate agent, then you can have a drop down of locations here. This is all linking back to your CRM, so your client relationship management, which is part of Formatize as well. Job types is something I'm going to go through in a minute. I'll pick one now. I'll pick a demo client just to show you how this all works. So I can choose the Formatize, so it's looking up the CRM database, populates the address in there. If there's more than one address, they'll appear here in the drop down. Okay, the job type. Now these are job types that we've pre-built in the system, so you can remove those, and I'm going to go in there and show you this in more detail at the moment. So let's pick a Victorian 2012 inspection. So you can see now that it's added the form to that job. So that form's now in there ready to fill out when I get out on site. You can assign it to different, if you've got more than one inspector, you can assign it to a different inspector. You can add a due date and due time to it. That's just as easy as clicking on the calendar and changing the date to whatever you would like it to be. Same with the time. You can see that the time here is auto-populated to 1 hour. That is adjustable. You can adjust it here, but in the job type templates that I'm going to show you in a minute, you can pre-select how long that type of inspection should take. So it'll automatically add an hour here if the job type template is telling it to add an hour, but I'll show you that in a minute. You can also add invoices to the job. So you can click on here, add a new invoice, but once again, the job type can also populate an invoice into here for you every time you create a new job. That's another option. Okay, so I think that's about it for jobs. Once you've got it set up how you want it and you have chosen who it's going to go, you can just hit dispatch, and that will then be sent out to the users that you've chosen here, sent out to their app, so they can open up the app, go to the jobs tab, and that job will be sitting there waiting for them to complete with that form attached. Okay, so we'll go into jobs and job type templates. So these are all pre-set up job templates that we have done for you. By no means you have to use them. They're there for you if you want to. Obviously, we've got Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales. All the states are here. Once again, it's for inspectors that may be working across borders, but it's very simple to remove ones you don't want by just ticking on the boxes and hitting delete down the bottom here. So you can remove ones that are not applicable to you. So it's just a bit cleaner to look at. What I'll do is go down into the Victorian 2012 job type just to show you how these work. You can set these up yourself. You don't have to use our ones. You can create new ones from scratch. But this is just a quick overview. So basically what a job type template is setting up all the defaults for a certain type of job. So if you've got a 2012 inspection, you know it's going to take about an hour. You know it's got to have this form attached. So this is what we're doing. We're setting this up once so it can just be selected when you're creating a new job. So we've just got the title of it here, the brief description of what it is. You can see that the right form's attached and groups that are allowed to use it, okay, that have access to it. So user groups is another thing that you might want to look into if you've got more than one inspector. So basically that's how job type's set up. There's some key elements up the top here. Job status updates. So a job will move through different statuses that are all sort of preset. You can add different job statuses, but we'll go into this one here, and you can see here this communication type. So this is basically a communication with the client that happens automatically. Okay, so you don't have to come in here and do this every time. If you choose this job type, these set communications are going to happen on certain triggers. So this one here is going to send an email. The trigger is when the job gets created. It's going to send it to the contact's email that you've chosen, and it's going to populate with this email content. Now this is completely customizable. You can come in here and change this if it's not what you like, but you can see it's using placeholders. So it's going to put the contact's name in there. It's going to put your business name in here, the location of the job, the due and time and date for the job. But once again, this is customizable, so you can set this up how you like. So every time you create a job, this is going to get triggered, send an email to the client, just letting them know that this is what's happening. Okay, there's another tab up here called Future Reminders. So you can see we've got two here. I'm going to the first one. You can see that it's an email. It's 2 days before the due date of the job. It's going to send it to the contact's email, and it's a job type. So that's going to say the 2012 inspection reminder. So this is just 2 days before the job's due, telling the client that, hey, we're still coming. If there's any queries, feel free to contact us if you need to reschedule or anything like that. Okay, the second one is also an email. It's 3 days after the job is complete, and this one's just basically a thank you for using our services. We hope we did everything the way you liked it. I hope the result was good for you, that kind of thing. And there's a customer satisfaction survey here that they can fill out if they feel like being helpful. There's different types of reminders that you can set up. This one here will send an SMS. This one here creates a letter that you might want to send to a client that perhaps doesn't have an email or a mobile phone. And you can also set up a task here. So a good example of a task that you might want to use is something like you might want to task a certain user in your company to call this client in 3 years' time or 2 years and 10 months to see if they want to have this inspection done again. Okay, so that's just creates a task in the task tab to remind someone in your business to contact the client to maybe book a new inspection. So it's a very handy tool, these job type templates. There's one more tab quickly here I want to show you is line items. So you can add, if you add a line item here, so this might be safety barrier inspection, and it's got a price here, you can edit this price. If you add this line item to this section here, then every time you use this job type, it will create an invoice attached to the job with this amount in it. Now the amount is editable, so you can change the amount per job, or you can leave it blank in here and then just add it every time you do a job, add the price. Okay, so that's just a few little benefits of a job type template. So once again, when you go into the job, you select this job type template. All this stuff is automatically populated into the job. So it's a super handy system, and we really hope that it's of benefit to you. I'll just quickly mention one last thing on here. All these job type templates that we've set up, we have disabled these communications. So if you use this job type template at the moment, none of these emails will go. If you want to use them, you can come in here and just click enabled, and that will enable that communication to happen. Okay, so that's on all of them. Even the future reminders, they've all been set to disabled. Okay, so that's about all we've got to show you for this particular webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something from it. One thing I would quickly show you up here is if you have questions, the user guide here is a great place to start. There's lots of information in here that will answer a lot of questions that you've got about the system. If you can't find the help you need, then please contact us. You can go in here and raise a support ticket and ask any questions that you like, and our super helpful support team will come back to you as soon as possible with some very informative answers. They quite often supply screenshots and all sorts of things to make it really easy for you to understand. Okay, so yeah, thanks again for joining us for today's webinar, and really hope it's been beneficial, and we look forward to providing more webinars in the very near future. Thanks again. Bye.